Modern psychology gave us cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness based stress reduction, emotional regulation techniques that took decades of clinical research to develop. Groundbreaking work, no argument there. Except sages mapped the exact same territory over 1,000 years earlier. A precise step by step map of how the mind moves from chaos to stillness. This is that map. The map shows two paths to experience Brahman, your inner world and your outer world. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what modern psychology is still catching up to. And more importantly, you'll understand why these six meditations suggested in this table by Drig Drishya Viveka will help you master your emotions to win big in this life. Before we begin, let me give you a small piece of information. There is a technique in modern therapy called cognitive diffusion. The idea is simple. You learn to see a thought as just a thought, not a fact about reality. The moment you do that, the thought loses its grip on you. Interestingly, our sages had a name for this exact shift. They called it Drishya Anuvidha. Same mechanism, same result, written down centuries before anyone in the West had a word for it. That's not a coincidence. That's because this problem being hijacked by our own minds has always been the human problem. Every generation just gives it a different name. But here's what most people miss when they hear ancient wisdom. This was never meant to stay in a book. It was built to be used in your actual life. And we will learn and practice this week. Quick question. What does emotional maturity actually mean to you? Most people say something like staying calm, not losing your temper, not crying at work. That's not it. That's just suppression with a better PR. Real emotional maturity has nothing to do with controlling how you feel. It has everything to do with your relationship to your own thoughts. If you watch my earlier videos, you already know the foundation, the seer and the seen, the witness behind every thought and emotion, the ego that keeps insisting it is the one in charge. In case you are new here, let me quickly summarize. There is a part of you that watches, and there is everything that gets watched. Your thoughts, your moods, your reactions. Most people spend their entire life glued to the second part, convinced it's the whole of who they are. That's the actual problem, not your emotions, the glue, the attachment. When you are 100% fused with a thought, it doesn't feel like a thought anymore. It feels like the truth. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and for the next 10 minutes, you are not thinking anger is happening. You just are the anger. There is no gap, no space to even ask, wait, is this worth it? Emotional maturity is the skill of creating that gap. That's it. That's the entire game. Not becoming someone who never gets angry, becoming someone who notices anger arriving and getting to choose what happens next. And this is exactly where the six-fold map comes in. Because sages didn't just say create distance from your thoughts and leave you to figure out how. They mapped the entire journey from being completely fused with a thought to being free of it step by step. Now, this gap that we are talking about, it doesn't show up in one place. Sages notice something very interesting. Every single emotional struggle you've ever had falls into one of these two arenas. They call them Hridi and Bahi, inner world and outer world. Let me show you what I mean, because these aren't abstract categories. You've lived both, probably this week, probably now. Hridi, the inner arena, is your relationship with your own mind. You know the two aim spiral, right? You had one exchange with someone, maybe a slightly cold text, maybe an offhand comment in a meeting, and now you are lying in the dark replaying it. Except you are not just replaying what happened. You are adding dialogue, building an entire courtroom drama where you are both the prosecutor and the defendant, and somehow you are still losing. Nothing new is happening. Just the same thought on loop, gripping tighter each time. That's Hridi losing badly. Now, Bahi, the outer arena, is your relationship with the world outside you. People, situations, things that you can't control. You scroll past someone your age who just closed a funding round, or who got promoted, or posted a picture from a trip you can't afford right now, and something in your chest tightens. Nothing in your actual life changed in that moment. Your job is the same, your bank account is the same, but you feel smaller anyway. That's Bahi losing. Here's the part that changes everything once you see it. These are the same problems wearing two different costumes. You've let an object, be it your inner emotion or outer element, define who you are for the next few hours. And this is exactly why the ancient map doesn't stop at watch your thoughts and call it a day. It gives you a specific path for the inner battlefield and a specific path for the outer one. Because losing at 2 a.m. to your own mind and losing at 2 p.m. to someone else's highlighted reel need to be handled differently, even though the root cause is identical. And that's exactly what the sixfold map lays out next. In your inner world called Hridi, first comes Drishyanuvidha Savikalpa Samadhi, bound to what you see. You're completely caught up in a thought or feeling, no distance at all. It's happening to you. Second is Shabdanubidha Savikalpa Samadhi, bound to the word. You're using wisdom on purpose now, repeating a truth to yourself again and again to loosen the thought's grip over you. Don't panic. We will be discussing it elaborately in the upcoming segment. This is just the theory part. Listen to it. Third comes the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, beyond both. The thought no longer needs fighting. It simply stops arising with force. Stillness without effort. Now, in your outer world, Bahi, the same three stages happen, just pointed at people, things, and situations instead of your own mind. First comes the Drishya Anuvidha, or the outer version. You are fused with something outside you, someone's success, someone's opinion, a possession you don't have. It defines how you feel in that moment. Then comes Shabda Anuvidha, outer version. You deliberately remind yourself of a deeper truth, that nothing outside you can actually diminish what you are until that truth starts to stick. Then is Nirvikalpa, the outer version, the comparison, the pull, the smallness. It just doesn't land anymore. Not because you're suppressing it, because it genuinely lost its grip. 6 stages, one pattern, repeated twice. Get hooked, loosen the hook on purpose, watch the hook disappear. Let's stop talking about this in theory. Let's follow one real situation all the way through the 3 stages so you can actually see the shift happen instead of just hearing or reading about it. Say a colleague takes credit for your idea in a meeting. Stage 1 is the raw hit. You're sitting there and something in your chest drops, then heats up. Your jaw tightens. You are replaying the same sentence they said, word for word, on loop. You're not thinking about the trigger. You are the trigger. There's no you and the anger. There's just anger wearing your face. This is Drishya Anuvidha. bound to be seen. The object, in this case, a person's betrayal, has you completely. Stage 2 is where the real work lives, and this is the part almost nobody talks about honestly. You get home, you're still replaying it, and now, on purpose, you bring in a thought to work against the grip. Maybe it's not, I'm not this anger, I'm the one watching it happen. Maybe it's simpler, this will not matter in 6 months. Here is what happens the first time you try this. It does not work. Not really. You say the line to yourself, and 30 seconds later, you are back in the meeting room in your head, rehearsing the comeback you should have said but didn't. You say the line again and again, and the mind slips back to the story. This is Shabda Anuvidha, bound to the word, and it's repetitive, unglamorous, sometimes frustrating work. You are holding a thought the way you hold a rope in a tug of war, hand over hand, and the old pattern keeps pulling you back. But here's what's actually happening underneath the frustration. Each time you catch yourself slipping back into the story and gently return to the wiser thought, something is being trained, not suppressed. Trained. You're not pretending the betrayal didn't sting. You're teaching your mind a new default response to handle your emotions slowly, every day, the same way a muscle gets built by lifting something heavier than feels comfortable. Most people quit right here at stage 2 because it feels like it isn't working. They expect stage 3 overnight and give up in the middle of the rep. This is precisely the stage that decides whether the whole practice sticks or fades. If you only remember one part of the map after the video ends, remember this one. Stage 2 is not a formality on the way to peace. Stage 2 is where peace gets built. Stage 3 is what happens after enough of those reps. One day, weeks or months later, a similar situation happens again. Someone talks over you, dismisses your idea, and you notice almost with surprise that the old heat doesn't arrive. Not because you fought it off in that moment. There was simply nothing there to fight. The thought that used to hijack you for hours doesn't even bother showing up with its old force. This stage is called Nirvikalpa, effortless, because the work already happened quietly, rep by rep, back at stage 2. Now, take that same arc and point it outward at Bahi. Say, a friend buys a house that you've been dreaming about for years. Stage 1, you feel in your gut the second you see the photos. Comparison, smallness, maybe even a flicker of resentment. You're embarrassed to admit too. You're fused with it completely. Stage 2, you catch yourself scrolling their photos for the fifth time and deliberately bring in a counter thought. Their timeline is not my timeline. You say it, and the old feeling creeps back anyway. So you say it again, gently, without self judgment, the same way you'd correct a child that keeps wandering off, patiently, as many times as it takes. Stage 3, months later, the said friend mentions their new house casually, and you notice you simply feel happy for them. The comparison never even loads. Hold the thought. Let the thought hold itself. Watch the thought end on its own. That 3 word arc is the entire map in both arenas, and stage 2 is the hinge the whole thing swings on. This is also exactly where modern psychology and this ancient map shake hands and where they quietly part ways. We have strong clinical tools for stage 1 and stage 2, exposure work, cognitive reframing. What we don't have a clean map for is for stage 3, the place where the technique refines itself because you have genuinely changed underneath it. Sages had a word for that place, and it's exactly where we are headed next. So, Why does all of this matter beyond feeling a bit calmer? Watch an amateur play any sport, and here's what you'll notice. Every ball that comes at them, they flinch, they swing wildly. They are reacting to the game, not playing it. Now, watch a pro. The same fast ball is coming at them, and somehow they have time. They see it early. They choose their shot. Nothing about the ball changed, did it? Everything about their relationship to the ball coming at them did. That's the entire difference between an emotional amateur and someone who's actually matured. Life throws the same balls at everyone: a betrayal, a comparison, a loss, a cutting remark. The amateur gets hijacked by every single one. Stage one on loop for hours or days. The pro sees the same ball coming and has room to choose. That room is not luck. It's not personality. It's built exactly the way we just walked through, one rep of stage two at a time. And here's what's actually at stake once you build it: relationships that don't collapse every time someone says the wrong thing. Why? Because you are no longer fused with every reaction that shows up. Decisions made with a clear head instead of a panicked one. Because you've created enough distance to actually think. Self worth that stops rising and falling depending on what someone else just posted or said or achieved. That is not a small shift. That's the difference between a life that happens to you and a life you actually play. And here is the part worth sitting with. The destination of this entire map isn't numbness. It was never about feeling less. Underneath all six stages is one discovery: that what you actually are was never the fragile one to begin with. The anger, the comparison, the spiral, none of it was ever really you. It was always something passing through you, mistaken for the whole of who you are. Atman was never touched by any of it, not once. Here's the honest truth though: knowing this map is not the same as living it. You now know there are six stages. You know stage two is where the real work happens. But knowing the exit out of a room does not get you out of the room. You still have to walk. So next time we go all the way in. The exact practices for each stage, real exercises you can start using today in your actual life, this week, not someday after years of study. Step by step. Hridi and Bahi both. If this map resonated with you, hit subscribe. You don't want to miss the next one. And in the comments, tell me exactly which arena do you lose to more. Hridi, the storms inside your head, or Bahi, the world outside pulling at you. I will read every single one. See you in the next video. Om Batuku Bhairava Namah.